everybody. Welcome to Stacy's Art Studio September 2020 vlog. I thought today I would just let you see the reality of what goes on in the studio. Right now I'm sitting on the floor and folding these new boxes that I got for 8x10 paintings and trying to find a place to store them. In this studio, things get a little bit out of hand sometimes. So I'm not even using the new camera today. I'm still working on getting that set up, but if you'll notice, I have a cool setup going on here for art. So why don't we talk about art today? So that's how I usually start, right, with the vlog, is we talk about the art and the gardens and everything else, and you get to see the chaos that's happening here. I've got things moving, so we'll get into all that. So art for August. Well, August is pretty much a really tough month in the gardening part of my life. In here in New Mexico, it's always the hottest. It's like everything amps up, you know, it starts to get really hot, and then August is pretty tough because it takes a lot of attention on the plants to keep them alive. So there wasn't a whole lot of painting going on, but also I was prepping to get the website renewed and up and moving. The old website is still there. The new site is not quite ready, but it's really getting close. I think probably in a couple of weeks. So I was also kind of trying to get everything together so that at the, you know, like the midpoint in the fall, I can be ready to be working in the studio and not very much outside. Usually here, it's still pretty hot through September. So, I'm usually pretty busy in the gardens through September. We've had some strange weather. Talk about that a little bit later. But this year is unique because we've been making a lot of changes in getting ready to be everything being done from here so that I don't leave, to go to the post office, stuff like that. And in the long run, it's going to simplify my life a whole lot. It's a process I really should have done a while ago, but I got a little bit, lackadaisical, not motivated. And I'm feeling more motivated now. So I've got a whole bunch of boxes. And that's one of my biggest issues in art, is having storage for all the stuff that's not very pretty. And because the studio is inside the house, it's hard to manage that because I really want the house to be a house. So I don't like to have all the, nitty-gritty stuff out, but I don't really have very good storage. Eventually, someday, I'm hoping that I will have a shed, like a real, a she shed, put on the edge of my secret garden there with doors that open into the secret garden, and that I can have, a rough floor where I can just drop all the paint I could possibly want, and I can have places to store all the stuff and the paintings and things like that. But that's, that's a ways down the road. So for now, I have to find ways to manage the space that I have, which I am not being ungrateful for. It's fabulous. I love my little corner to work in until I have to make some changes and do some storage. So those are the challenges I'm dealing with right now. As far as art goes, I've got some cool things going on right here. So I've got new lighting for here, and this is a camera holder so that it can be up close to what I'm working on in front of me instead of behind me, which I have had, up until now. I tried several different things. This camera comes, you can get a head thing, which I use for outside, where it just sits on my head, and then wherever I look, it looks. There was also one that you can have here, and I thought that would be really good for painting, but it really wasn't because of the way the camera was laid. So it went like this, but not like this, so you couldn't see the whole thing here. Also, every time I moved or shook, it would move the camera. So this is the new setup. I haven't done a video yet. I've fiddled with it a little bit. But I'm thinking it's going to be really cool, at least for the small paintings. It's not going to work, of course, when I'm working on a really large painting. But this year I'm really kind of focusing on smaller paintings. This is an 11 by 14, but I will be focusing mostly on 8 by 10s this year. That's why all of the boxes. I also got today my mailing scale is here. I have my labels, they're here. It's all scattered everywhere. And so now I've got to figure out just how to put it all away. I did get to do one really cool painting. Remember last month I showed you that really cool watercolor painting that my friend of mine sent me? Well, she got on Zoom with me a couple of times because she wanted to show me her pour method that she uses. I don't know if you can see this, but so I got to do this little 8 by 10 using kind of a pour method, but it's not like kind of a pour method that I would think of as a pour method for me, because I ended up messing with it, and then it turned into pretty impressionistic, which is, of course, one of my favorites. So hopefully you can see it well. I have to come up with a name for it, and I'll have that available soon. And then as far as the website goes, that's real close. My goal is to write a new blog for it. We open it. We finished the introduction video that we're going to have on my Instagram account and hopefully on the website as well. We have some of the pages up. We need to put in the portfolio page. That's a pretty big job because there are a lot of photos to transfer for that one. And so I think I'll be announcing it being ready in 2 to 3 weeks. That's what I think. I think it'll be ready by the end of September. So I'm very excited about all that. I think the end of September is a good timing because then we have pretty much fall here in October. So that gets us going. Okay, so let's see what else. Gardening. So the gardens did really, really well this year. You know, by the end of the season, I'm already thinking about what am I going to do next year. I'm also looking forward to not having to pay close attention to each plant. I'm having some troubles with my little dwarf spruce trees out front. They're suffering. They're not getting enough water. I cut back about halfway with everything, and those didn't adjust to that. So they were still a little too young. So I have to step up the watering on that, and hopefully I didn't lose them. We put in some new stuff, as you saw in my video in the front, in the desert cottage garden. We've put in stuff on the side there in front of the kiddos' apartment. Hubby just got tired of dealing with the weeds there, so I was like kind of waiting, but he was like, no, we're gonna go do it. So he dug the holes and helped me haul the hay, and so that's great. So it's really cool having that planted. Hopefully it'll survive. My little Japanese maple looks like it might make it, so I'm very excited about that. Tomatoes are still doing great. Last year I managed to get 2 gallon size bags frozen of tomatoes. This year I'm already on the 4th bag, so that's really cool. The melon, you know, there's gonna be melons on the melon past freezing, because, you know, all of this stuff I put in late because I was so sick early in the spring with the kidney stone. So I didn't get everything started when I should have. So that's why I don't think the melon is I'm not gonna get as much off of it as I should have. But it sure is lovely. They smell fabulous when they drop off of the vine, and I go out and I find a new melon, and it smells so wonderful. It's lovely. I enjoy that. So we have harvested, a great deal of food this year, so much more than last year, which is really cool because last year I was just starting to get to where I could start planting a lot of food. And this year was huge jump in progress, and thankfully, because hubby helped me build those raised beds and do some of that extra work that I just couldn't do early on. So I'm really thrilled to have those. Those are fabulous. And the corn did really, really well, but like I said in my last video, I'm going to be moving them, and I'm going to keep the tomatoes where I said I was going to move them, but they've been real easy. So much easier on my back, and I don't care that they're too tall because that's actually not too hard for me to get to. And let's see what else. Oh, I've been adding on a bunch of, like I said, I'm starting to think about, next year and where else can I grow? What else can I grow? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. It is. It's an obsession. It's an illness. I don't know what it is, but it certainly gets me through. So I've added some planting bags along my porch instead of building anything, which is pretty cool because that means next year I won't have any planter bed projects. I'll still have a few projects, but I won't have any planter bed projects. So I'll have everything laid out, I think, where I'm going to be planting things. And I'm already looking ahead for winter here. In my front, in the dining room, I ended up having to take those palm trees out of their big pots because they'd been there for a really long time and they were just not doing okay. And instead of replacing them with palm trees, I'm going to put spinach and lettuce in those pots throughout the winter. Hopefully that will work because that would be really nice. The kiddo cannot eat lettuce, but he can eat spinach, and it's actually, it's just kind of hard to get a hold of. So it'd be really nice if it was growing most of the year, but we'll see. We'll see how that works. We'll give it a try. So that's summer. We are still technically in summer here. Usually we're super hot still through September, but we've had some strange weather. This week we got some rain, which is lovely. My rain barrels have water in them again, so I get to use that again. Yay. But the weather turned so we were over 100 degrees every day, and then all these weather patterns came in that just reminded me of fall, winter clouds, and I kept thinking, man, it's just acting like fall, but it shouldn't be yet. And it dropped. We had a cold front come through, and so we were at 100 degrees at 11 o'clock at night to 60 degrees at 11 o'clock at night, 65, 66. And so that was a pretty big adjustment. And then I also noticed that my aspen trees back here in the corner are starting to turn. It's not just from, being hot, it's actual fall leaves, which is a little bit early for here. So we might actually have an early fall, early winter. We'll see. I have been fooled before, and it's still hot. But I took down the pool because of that, also because our neighbor's tree is starting to lose a lot of stuff and it's falling in it, and I need an actual cover, and I don't have one, and so I just decided we'll take it down for this year. I really enjoyed that. That was fabulous. And now I'm addicted, so we're gonna work on a new setup for next year. In the meantime, Molly Girl is very happy to have her sand pit back. So she's been laying around in it. She loves that wet sand. I don't know what it is. And the clover started to come up in the secret garden. I have not seen it coming up in the desert cottage, but it is coming up in the secret garden, and is coming up around all the raised beds out in the back. So that's pretty cool. So it's been an interesting summer. I got a new routine. I was able to cut back on how much I watered. because everything was getting established. I still have some young things that are needed a lot of attention, so it's still not quite where I want it to be as far as me managing it and caring for it. And I don't have a sprinkler system or anything like that. This place had one, and it actually has a pretty fancy system, but for some reason all of the the tubes that went to it were all popping out of the ground. They'd been cut or damaged, or I don't know if it was on purpose or if it was just that way. And I didn't want to invest money in rebuilding that. I wanted to just get the place in shape. And I also really find it very valuable the time I spend watering most of the time. There are some days that I don't find value in it, but most days for me it's a very peaceful time. It's a time that I am just alone with my thoughts and counting how many seconds I'm watering things. It's also a good time just to see how the plants are doing. And I don't know, someday I may end up putting in some kind of a system, maybe a drip system, but we'll see. At least for if, I'm not feeling well or whatever, so that it gets watered when it needs to and if I can't. So that may be another, maybe next year project, but we'll see what we can come up with. I think it's probably going to be a drip system, and we're going to leave the sprinkler system alone because I also feel like that's a water waster. Personally, I think sprinkler systems are. When I can really focus on each plant, I can make sure the water is down at the bottom of the plant so there's no loss of water except for what it's going to the plant. So that's one of the reasons I do that. I do have little sprinkler heads on some hoses for the back little bits of grass that we have. It's much easier to make sure it gets the water it needs by doing that. And those, we've been able to cut back on how often we water there. So I kind of wanted to talk about my watering schedule too. So I do my back gardens Wednesdays and Saturdays. I do the secret garden Tuesdays and Fridays. And I do the desert cottage garden Monday and Thursdays. So I really am doing something Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday I don't water. Depending on, well, that's not true. Usually I do water the babies. Whatever's new has to be watered every day. And then, so that in the pots. So I do that. And then next year I would like to be able to cut that back a little further. Or at least combine them so I'm not out there every day. And I've got a lot of work to do in the back, cleaning up. I've got sunflowers that are falling over now and things like that. But that's what happens when we start to see the end of the season. Things start to fold over and it's time to start cleaning up. But I don't want to quite yet because there's still quite a lot of food left on those sunflowers, and the birds out there are just so in heaven. They're so happy. So anyway, that's about it, I think. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head today because it's still chaos, and if I didn't do it right now, I was like, I'm just not gonna have time to hang out with you guys. So, and I really wanted to at the beginning of September and not say, hey, it's the middle of September, can you believe it? So anyway, that's what's happening in my crazy world, and I'm glad I actually got to show you some of the little bit of a mess thing and not so formal. But next month, hopefully I'll have it back together. We'll see. Hey everybody, love you all. Please be safe. Talk to you soon.